The purpose of this study was to evaluate the effectiveness of using outdoor activities as a supplement to classroom instruction. The study tested student motivation and general behavior in a lesson given outdoors and a lesson given inside the classroom. The study looked to answer the question, does a lesson given in an outdoor setting as compared to an indoor setting affect student motivation and behavior? It also looks to answer the question, can outdoor lessons improve student motivation and behavior? This study will help educators get a better understanding of whether or not we can effectively deliver curriculum in an outdoor setting and still be meeting class objectives. In today's society, we are ever growing further and further away from nature. The technologies that we use on a daily basis, the hypothetical bubble that we place ourselves in during the workday, the ways in which we get to and from our daily activities, the way we are using and developing land, and the time we spend indoors are all contributing factors to our disconnect from nature. Richard Love explains his work on nature deficit disorder in his book titled Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder. He writes, our society is teaching young people to avoid direct experience in nature. That lesson is delivered in schools, families, even organizations devoted to the outdoors and codified into the legal and regulatory structures of many of our communities. It is something that is truly being exemplified in our classrooms. Students are expected to stay seated in a dimly lit, stuffy, dusty room with no free-flowing fresh air and learn about what is happening outside, while rarely going outside to actually see what's happening. We have seen the number of students diagnosed with symptoms of ADD and ADHD on the rise, fewer students with practical knowledge of the outdoors, and a decrease in creative thinking. Our classrooms are now so concerned about our approach to state and national standards and scoring well on high-stakes testing that we move right through subject matter as quick as we can turn the page of a book. With no connection to the outdoors, students limit themselves to life inside. In a study done in 2001 by researchers Bradley, Zajic, and Wallachek, the question of whether children participating in garden activities benefited from an improvement in interpersonal relationships and attitudes towards school was raised. Using 6 supplemental activities in a school garden, the study measured the effectiveness of using these lessons to improve interpersonal relationships and attitudes of the students. A control group not participating in outdoor activities was used to make comparisons to the experimental group. This study also effectively used pre-tests and post-tests to measure results. Now, in that study, the researchers had a control group and they had an experimental group. The control group stayed indoors for their lessons, while the experimental group was taken outdoors for their lessons. Those 2 classrooms were then compared for results. In the case of this study, the same group of students were taken outdoors and the same group of students were given a lesson indoors, and those 2 classes were compared for results. This study took place in a small private school located in Farmingdale, New Jersey. The school has a very progressive style of education and closely aligns with the theories of John Dewey and Amelia Reggio. More specifically, the study took place in a high school level biology class that also included students under a high school level. The group of 15 students in this biology class ranged from 6th grade to 9th grade. Students who were in this class chose to take it if they were under 9th grade and were required to take it as 9th graders. A few students have learning disabilities, including dyslexia, ADD, and ADHD. The school is fortunate enough to have a large backyard that is open to all classes and all classroom activities. Although this backyard may not be the most natural and wild place, it is outside, and it's located in a fairly rural area. Located in the backyard is the school garden, which was the main area of concentration for this study. This study took place over 2 class periods at 50 minutes each. In the first class period, students explored the genetics of heirloom or heritage variety plants using the internet as a source for research. Using YouTube videos, websites, and articles, students participated in an activity similar to a web quest. Students answered questions on a worksheet as they did their research, and it was collected at the end of the lesson. During this activity, the teacher took notes on student participation and general behavior, as well as the student's ability to listen to and follow directions, by walking around the room and observing student activity. These notes were a way to measure the general behavior of students, and the collected worksheet was graded to measure the students' learning. Now, in the second class period, students were given the packet of seeds that they ordered, and they were outside planting the seeds for the entire lesson. In this activity, students were required to read the directions given on the seed packet and plant their seeds in whatever container best suited their seeds' needs. Students put their hands in the dirt, filled their containers, pushed their seeds down into the dirt, and watered their seedlings. Again, as in class period number 1, the teacher took notes on the students' ability to effectively listen to and follow directions. At the end of the class, students were given a survey asking them to rate their agreement to 10 different statements. The survey was used to gauge students' general opinion and level of comfort in being outdoors during class time. As plant genetics and heirloom variety plants was only a portion of a 6-week marking period, students were given a final project, and one of the options for the project was to do a report of the heirloom plant that they grew from seed. In addition, there were 3 other project choices the students had to pick from. The number of the students using their heirloom plant in their final project would give a good sense of the effectiveness of this outdoor activity in motivating student interest. As similar to the school garden study done by Bradley, Zajac, and Wallachek, there were no significant differences in student behavior and motivation between the indoor lesson and the outdoor lesson. Significant differences in behavior would be exemplified in the teacher's notes about behavior and motivation of individual students. There were no significant notes taken about any significant differences in student behavior. There were even a few students who were not able to follow directions and seemed to be distracted outside. But that was no different from the notes taken on that student inside the classroom. Overall, there was only 1 student out of 15 who chose to do their final project on the heirloom seedlings they grew. This could be because of the level of excitement students had for the other 3 project choices. This could be used to show that students were not motivated by outdoor classroom activity, but it could also show that students were highly motivated by other activities with other subject areas. The results from the post-survey were averaged among the class. Students agreed to questions using a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being that they completely disagree with a statement, and 10 being that they completely agree with a statement. Any result scored 7 to 10 shows agreement, and any result scored 1 to 4 shows disagreement. Anything in between 5 and 6 can be regarded as a mutual feeling. In this post-test, the 2 significant class averages show that the class mostly feels comfortable outdoors. This could be a result of our school's availability to the outdoors. The simple fact that we even have a backyard and required recess every day makes students maybe feel comfortable outdoors. The most significant result of this survey was that the class average agrees with the statement that they are most likely to be motivated when they are learning outdoors. They scored an 8 on average. And they also disagree that their behavior degrades when they are outdoors, scoring an average of a 3 for that question. This could attest to the fact that they don't want to admit that they misbehave when they go outside out of fear that their outside time could be taken away. But without putting their names on the survey, this might not have been the case. There were a number of realizations at the end of the study as to how the study could have been used to more accurately measure results. For one, simply taking notes on student behavior during both lessons was not effective in measuring improvement in motivation and behavior. A better strategy would be to actually give the students numerical scores in order to compare and make determinations on whether or not there was a significant change. In addition, the scale for good behavior and bad behavior, motivation and lack of motivation, needs to be addressed. What is measured as good behavior and bad behavior on a numerical scale? How can you tell if a student is motivated or not? Moving forward, a good idea would be to give a pre-test and a post-test, or a pre-survey and a post-survey, one before the outdoor activity and one after the outdoor activity to compare and generate results. As with many studies, improvement in results could be made with more data. The same model could be applied with better data acquisition to a larger number of classes. One class outside and one class inside was not enough to make any real determinations. Moving forward, the study needs to improve data collection, making it more measurable and visible, and should be given larger sets of data from more class activities.